gathered together here, we can get started. My name is Kim Steinke, a lot of you know, and I will be the president of the League of Women Voters of Midland for the coming year. And I want to welcome all of you members, visitors, friends. We thank you for coming out tonight. We very much appreciate it. We have a pretty full agenda, so my remarks are going to be very, very short. We have an exciting year ahead of us, celebrating our 100th anniversary of our right to vote, but we also have an election coming, so it's going to be a very full year. And we look forward to participation from all of you that are here tonight, and hopefully all of our other members. The theme for this year's program that will start this fall and extend through next year is creating a more perfect democracy. And we hope to have several programs throughout the year that will be informative as you look to go to the polls in next year. We also have some interesting programs that you're going to hear about here in just a few minutes. So with that, I want to turn it over to Carol Swinehart, who's going to fill you in. She's committee chair, first up to talk a little bit more detail about our program for the year. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
No.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I have had the umbrella name of Natural Resources Chair last year and this year, and haven't honestly done a lot. In the sense, part of this is, League is divided into 3 tiers: national, state, and local. And it's actually our national league that has natural resources positions. It's broken down into 10 categories. I will not enumerate them all for you, but energy is one of them. And a very, very brief pass at the position has that we support environmentally sound policies that reduce energy growth rates, emphasize energy conservation, and encourage the use of renewable resources. So, it's kind of under that umbrella that, and my feeling that we needed to have some substance of content for our membership and the community addressing environmental issues, that we invited Peter Sinclair to be a speaker in October, on Wednesday, October 16th, and the program will be done in collaboration with the Chippewa Nature Center. So, hopefully at 7 o'clock a month from now, it will still be light. And you all will feel, sure, I can go out to the Nature Center. They've got a wonderful place to present and rooms to do this in. Renewable energy, solar and wind, are now unequivocally the cheapest new sources of electricity around the world and are driving an economic boom across the country and here in mid-Michigan. Videographer Peter Sinclair has been following energy and environment issues in Michigan and beyond, and will present a vivid, exciting multimedia presentation on this vital issue. We are co-sponsoring this with the Nature Center, and I've just read you what's on their website and in their newsletter about the program. Peter is a monthly contributor to the Yale University's Yale Climate Connection, and he's media director for the Dark Snow Project, a scientific international team collecting data in Greenland on the melting ice sheet. He has said Mid-Michigan is a hotbed for wind and solar projects. So I hope that you will mark your calendars and join us on October 16th out at the Nature Center. Thank you.
Next up, Judy Donahue is going to give a little bit of information in place of Sue McCollister for our voting services.
You're going to see me a couple of times, and unfortunately I forgot my reading glasses. So I'm going to have to go very slowly and squint and hope that I can see something that I'm supposed to be saying.
Do you want to borrow some?
And I don't think that they'll work. Oh. Maybe they will. I have used many people. Okay, that would be great. as a matter of fact. Thank you. Anyway, I'm standing in place of our voter services chair, Sue McCollister, who's done a fantastic job over the years, and so we are so fortunate to have her. And she wanted me to tell you that it's going to be pretty quiet for the rest of this year, but it will definitely heat up starting early in 2020. And volunteers are going to be needed, and for such things as obviously voter registration, and then at the polls too. We're going to need, the league has committed itself to help out at the polls. And so we're expecting a high demand for our voter services. So think about that, think about helping us out there. On behalf of Sue, thank you. My next speech? Sure, thank you.
The next up is Catherine Redwine, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about our new media campaign and our new website.
For a week or so in August, I was adding our information to this snazzy new website that we get the service from League of Women Voters in California. So when you put in your League of Women Voters-Midland.org, you should get to this page now. It's not that different from any other web page. We have the menu down the left side. Under these rotating photos you'll see links to the last 10 things we've put in. Now we haven't put in 10 things yet, so don't look for 10 today. We have about 4 articles. I have the page under voting, under issues, and then joining and donating. Some of the other pages aren't fully developed yet. So if you see things that look like they were written by California or the U.S. League of Women Voters, they were. So as time goes on, I will be updating those things. I do believe I got all the critical information in. And I'm just so happy. It looks so much better to me than the old page, which was great, but it was old. The other thing we're doing is I am asking MCTV to come to most of our programs and record the activities of the program and the speakers. And we'll create these into short TV shows that will be available on MCTV online and also on television. Anyway, and on YouTube, because they have a YouTube channel set up that we can link all of our programs to. So I'm hoping to encourage or enhance the visibility of the league through putting our things that we're already doing online with YouTube. The only other things I have to say is we're still doing the voter newsletter. You should get one pretty much every month in email. It's an email newsletter. And if you run into anything there in the voter or on the page that's not working, please let me know. And if you go to the bottom of the web page, there's a link to my email address. And at the bottom of the voter. So you can send me anything. I will try to take care of it. So thank you very much.
Okay, Judy, I believe you're up again, and you'll be talking to us about our programs for the coming year.
And you don't have to clap for me again. Anyway, so as Catherine said, gave you an update on what we're doing, so be sure you check with the website and our website and look at the newsletter online, and be sure and read the and Facebook. Facebook, we have a Facebook page, right?
We do, yes, and I'm trying harder to keep that more vibrant. It's Some days I wonder if anybody looks at it, but I keep trying to put things on.
So we try to have, it's turning out almost every month a program through May or June. So you've already heard about October's program with Peter Sinclair. We are not having a program in November. We have an annual holiday luncheon in December, on December 5th. And you'll see this on the programs you have. And so save the dates, write them down in your calendars too. And we hope to have some of the original members, the founding members of this league talking to us at this holiday luncheon. And just a very informal talking, finding out what, reminiscing if you will. And this is at Creative 360. Also in Creative 360 on January the 14th, Sue Smith of the Michigan League of Women Voters, who's been was one of the officers for quite a while. She's going to be coming to us at Creative 360 in the afternoon, 2 to 4, I believe it is, talking to us about our League of Women Voters. We advocate positions. We have positions and we advocate, and she's going to talk to us about how they're used and what they are. And it should be very interesting. In February, we don't have a date for this, but Ann Manari will be our speaker, talking about the 2020 election preparations and how things have gone, how they're going, what we can expect. We hope to have that at the MCTV studio, where it will be filmed. And so it's going to be very interesting. I worked at the polls last year, and I have a lot of concerns of what happened last year. And I'm not sure whether they've been addressed, and I'll be right in the audience asking questions. And now, this is a really important one. We talked about the 19th Amendment. Now, and so mark it on your calendar, please, for April the 23rd. We will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment at the Holiday Inn. And it's an hors d'oeuvre gala. There will be written invitations, and we're going to be asking elected officials to attend too. We hope to have a great speaker, Judge Elizabeth Clements, who was from the Michigan Supreme Court. At this point, she's saying yes. Her schedule is a problem. She doesn't really know in advance. I didn't know that they travel around the state. It sort of sounds like kind of Abraham Lincoln's time. I don't know. Maybe it's left over. I don't know. Anyway, but she'll be really great and talking. Then in May, we have the Memorial Day Parade participation. So that's going to be exciting. You're going to hear more details on that as we go on, so check it. We hope to have lots of participation of our members, costumes in some, banners, etc., celebrating the 19th Amendment. And then in May, our annual meeting, and we're having a tea with that. So there'll be no dinner because of the gala. Now, I do have one other announcement, and today is a birthday for Kathy Mitzel. Would you like to stand up? Remember? You sing happy birthday? Before we everybody else's birthday today.
Happy birthday, dear Kathy. Happy birthday to you.
We have some cake over here. And I believe our last presenter has got a special message for you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carol McPherson.
Hello, I'm Vice President of Membership Chair for the League of Women Voters of the Midland area. And before I expose what I'm about to do, I want to let you guys know that Pete Sinclair, along with his wonderful wife, Sadie Collinson, are both League of Women Voters members. So, So I prepared this small little expose called An Ode to the League of Women Voters Membership. The League of Women Voters of the Midland area have a saying, the more, the merrier. We encourage all to join our outfit. Family, friends, and neighbors can commit. Those who are thinking about joining may inquire, to what does the League of Women Voters aspire? We stand for voters' rights and making democracy work. We provide voters information and many other perks. We are a nonpartisan group that provides election education, helping protect the right to vote across the nation. So I have here a form to provide to those who want to join far and wide. Tell all you know to join our league and experience the fun and intrigue. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And I believe next, Catherine, you're going to introduce our speaker for the evening.
Yes. Our speaker tonight is Chloe Updegrad. She is a graduate of the University of Michigan School of Public Health, where she received her master's degree in public health. And she did work in Lansing for a number of years, commuting from Midland County. She has experience working in diverse communities, from rural Haiti to tribal populations in Michigan, with the goal of improving well-being among community members. She is now the Census Hub Coordinator for the Great Lakes Bay region. She will be working to ensure the region gets an accurate count in the upcoming 2020 census. For the 2020 census, working with the local nonprofits, community organizations, colleges and universities, and local government officials will be extremely important, as regional and local census offices are reduced 50%. Additionally, door-to-door outreach will be scaled back in favor of an online-first model. Chloe will be working closely with the local organizations, providing support, training, partnership, and funding, as well as giving an important voice to each resident of the Great Lakes Bay area. Welcome, Chloe.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. And thank you for the introduction. That was very kind. So just a little bit of background on this Census Hub and what we're trying to do. The census is a constitutionally mandated operation done by the federal government, and it takes place every 10 years. What this endeavor is seeking to do is not in competition with that. We want to make sure that we get a fair and accurate count in this region. But unfortunately, the Census Bureau and the federal government leave out some folks when they take on endeavors like this. There's always populations of people that are undercounted or missed, and therefore don't have a voice in local programs, in government, etc. And so what we're trying to do with this endeavor is really an on-the-ground, community-driven effort to make sure that we're reaching the most vulnerable and hard-to-reach folks within Saginaw, Midland, Bay, and Isabella counties. So again, just wanting to delineate myself from the Federal Census Bureau. This is a nonprofit, on-the-ground, community-driven effort to make sure that we're reaching very vulnerable populations within our region. So this upcoming census has some unique challenges. First of all, it's going to be an online-first model for the census. That's really great for a lot of us because we can take the census right on our phone, we can take it on our computer, on our tablet. That's awesome. But if we think about the makeup of this county and the region itself, there's a lot of folks with low access to internet. There's a lot of folks with low access to technology. And our region is becoming increasingly older and more diverse. and lower income. And so we really need to be worried about those folks when the census makes a shift from how they used to do it, collecting information door to door. In addition to that limited access to technology piece, we've got a pretty high level of discomfort in engaging with the government, and that's according to the Pew Research Center. Folks are just uncomfortable with engaging with the federal government, and so with the census being a federal government effort, we can right off the bat see folks not wanting to participate. In addition, there was some drama around adding a citizenship question to the census. So the Supreme Court ruled against it. It won't be on the census, but a lot of damage was done. A lot of folks, especially our immigrant neighbors, are very concerned about their information being shared with other federal agencies. The census does have a lot of protections in place, but just the drama and the back and forth surrounding adding that question to the census has created a lot of damage and a lot of fear within our region. And so that's just another barrier that we're working up against. And in addition to that, the census itself, and Catherine kind of mentioned this in the intro, it has been cut back drastically. Their budget is much lower than what they've had in the past. Their local presence will be lower. They're still hiring local workers and local folks, but that is drastically scaled back. And so we're not gonna see that local presence of census workers like we would have seen in past censuses. Now, as far as impact, we know that this impacts our voice in Washington, D.C., and this impacts our voice in Lansing as well. But the big impact of the census is its financial impact on our local communities. So if we're looking at Midland County, we have over $120 million at stake of federal funding. If we look at the entire state, a 1% undercount in our state will cost us $1 billion. So all of these constraints, all of these barriers are leading us to a spot that could be very dangerous for the state of Michigan and could be very dangerous for our region as well. So I touched on financial impacts. These are the programs that utilize census data for their funding, and these are big ones. We're talking about Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP and WIC food assistance, free and reduced school lunches for our kids, funding for our schools, funding for kids with disabilities, children's special health care, energy assistance. A lot of social safety net programs depend on this data for their funding. Folks in our communities are dependent on this stuff to get by. So the impact is huge, but it's not just the social safety net programs. This is everything. This is our schools. This is our local communities. And if we want to fix these damn roads, pardon my French, we need to make sure that we get this right too, because funding for our roads comes from census data. So this is all of us, and we all have something at stake here. So if we're looking at local governments, I kind of talked about statewide and some federal programs. If we're looking locally, the federal government distributes $800 billion of money to states and local communities, and this impacts us in a variety of ways. Like I said, it's also our voice in Washington, D.C. and in Lansing. It impacts businesses wanting to come here. If we want to attract and retain businesses within this region, we need to make sure that we're getting this right too. There's not going to be any business that wants to come to Midland County if they see that the population has dropped and they're not going to be able to be successful here. We need to get this right for our universities, our medical facilities, businesses. So many different aspects of our daily lives depend on this data. It's not just the social safety net programs. It really is so much for our local communities. So I touched on the fact that we're doing this kind of a community-driven, on-the-ground sort of way. But this is a really cool endeavor. This has really never been done before. This has always been a federal government thing. The nonprofits really haven't had too much stake in this. But with the barriers that I mentioned, the constraints of the Census Bureau, our local nonprofits here in Michigan thought, you know what, we need to get out in front of this. We need to make sure that we're doing this right for our communities. So we've got several organizations throughout the state that are supporting this effort. The Michigan Nonprofit Association is kind of our umbrella. And then here locally we have the Saginaw Community Foundation, Midland Area Community Foundation, Bay Community Foundation, and Mount Pleasant Community Foundation all kind of partnering towards this effort. But as a whole, the whole state of Michigan is covered by some sort of hub or action agency to make sure that we're really engaging and galvanizing the local nonprofits on the ground. And that's awesome. We're the only state that's really leading the charge like this. And so, you know, from the governor's office all the way down to our local hubs, something is being done within the state to make sure that we're reaching populations, to make sure that folks are educated and aware as to why this is so important for us. And so it's a really awesome partnership between nonprofits, businesses, local government, state government, a really kind of full-on effort to get a good victory for the state of Michigan. The reason being, you know, and I talked about our statewide impacts, I talked about financials. If we're looking at this on an individual person level, so if one of you guys doesn't take the census, that's going to cost us $1,800. And that's multiplied by that 10-year period of the census, and that's multiplied by every single person that doesn't take part. And so very quickly, we can see how each person that we miss with this effort is going to cost us a lot. Our Voice in DC, all of these programs that people depend on in our community, $1,800 for each person that does not get counted, multiplied by 10 years. There's a huge impact there. And so that's why we have such great support from the governor's office, from the state, bipartisan support, I will say. Both sides of the aisle are supporting this at the state level. And then all of these local nonprofits that are contributing to make sure that we get a fair and accurate count in our region. Here's how we're doing it. We're partnering up with as many nonprofits as possible. So anyone that's reaching and working with vulnerable populations, we want to make sure that we're educating, training, providing grant dollars, providing partnership and support to make sure that they're able to work with their folks, their populations, to get the biggest bang for our buck. We feel like if we can approach this from the front, put some money behind organizations that people trust, provide trainings, provide that outreach, and really educate this community and make sure that folks are aware there's a huge impact. And that message is coming from a trusted messenger. It's coming from, you know, their WIC worker. It's coming from the person that delivers their Meals on Wheels. It's coming from their social worker at MDHHS, whatever it is. We want to make sure that we're putting grant funds into the hands of organizations that have the trust within the community. That process has already started. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go, but really wanted to make sure that this is community driven. It doesn't have a federal government-y feel, although the goal is the same, like I said, but we want this to feel like it really is a local effort and it's driven by the nonprofits in this community that people go to and people trust. So this is just a little bit about our grants. I will say here in Midland, we had a pretty decent sized budget. The Community Foundation here has really put a lot into this, and then the organizations have just come. I mean, we're so happy with what we've received so far from Senior Services, the ARC, West Midland Family Center, reaching all different populations of folks, kind of really trying to take down barriers of the internet access, the distrust of government, whatever it is. But we've got some great organizations that are working with us here in Midland County. We're still open to others. The process is pretty simple. It's a fillable PDF that we have out in the community. And any 501c3 nonprofit or local government entity can apply. And we want to make sure, like I said, that we're getting those dollars into the hands of folks that people trust, you know, whether it's a nonprofit or a local government, which is the level of government that people trust most in their community. They trust their county commissioner or their township supervisor much, much more than they're going to trust a federal worker coming to their door. So we really want to make sure that, again, it's community-driven, approached with an equity lens, and making sure that the most vulnerable folks in our community and in our region are reached with this and reached multiple times. They might need to see that message 10 times before they would be willing to take part in the census. And if that's what it takes, we're trying to put the money behind it and make that happen. So part of why I'm here is because I need your guys' help. I'm one person. I'm gallivanting around this region and trying to make sure I'm reaching as many people as I can, creating as many partnerships as possible. But I can't reach everybody, and you guys have big networks. You guys have places where you work, where you talk to people. We need to be getting this message out. We need folks to be aware that this census is important, and our governor has said that this upcoming census is just as important for Michigan as the 2020 election, which is huge. We've got so much at stake. We lost a seat in the House of Representatives in the last census. Michigan was the only state to lose population in the last census. And this time around, the prediction is that we could lose another seat, potentially 2, in the House of Representatives. We cannot have that. And I know that this is what you guys stand for, is making sure that we have fair elections. And one way to do that is to make sure that we get these counts right. So I need your help, and here's some ways that we can do that. Posting about the census in social media channels, putting it in your newsletters, reaching out to folks, having conversations with friends and family and coworkers, making sure that folks are aware, it's going to cost us $1,800 for each person that doesn't take part. We need to make sure we're doing this. We're also having some Census Day celebrations throughout the region. So the time frame of the census is March through July. And if we're thinking about the types of populations we're really trying to target with this, that's a very short window. And so whatever we have to do to increase the visibility, increase the reach of this project. So I need the help with that. And if there's other thoughts, when I take questions at the end, if you guys have other ideas of how we can make sure we're reaching folks, I'm definitely open to it. And I want to make sure too that, those hard to count populations, so it's our parents with young kids, racial and ethnic minorities, immigrant populations, folks who are homeless or transient, older adults, and folks with low access to internet. Those are our real core target populations, especially for Midland. And so we want to make sure that we're reaching those folks. And if you guys have contacts with groups that you feel like, hey, they should apply for a grant, hey, they should do this or that, please let me know that too. I want to make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned, and that each population within this county is reached and ultimately counted. So that's the gist of what we're trying to do with this Census Hub. I really want to reiterate, the goal is the same. The federal government wants to count every single resident, every single person that's living here. They miss people though. They miss people all the time. And last time around, Michigan had a 68% response rate. So we had over 30%, potentially more, of the population not respond to the census. This time around, with all of those constraints, the low trust in federal government, the prediction is that that will be much, much lower. And so, again, it's our voice in DC, our voice in Lansing. It's all of those important programs that people in our community are dependent on. It's our roads, it's our schools, funding for so many different programs that make this community what it is. And so I want to make sure that we're getting this right. I want to make sure that we're starting early, leaving no stone unturned, creating messages that resonate with specific populations. And if there's other thoughts or ideas or questions, I'd love to hear that. But thank you for having me. Thank you for hearing about how impactful this is. And please go talk to someone about this, put this on your social media, whatever it is to increase the visibility. This is going to be very impactful for our state and our region, and I want your help in getting this right.
Thank you. We can do questions. Judy?
Will you be getting some sort of feedback from the federal government as to how the census is going, so that you can say, oh, wow. And specifically, will you get one? Will it be by state? Boy, Michigan is really bad. We need you to go out. I mean, are they at least going to cooperate that much?
So that's a great question, and that is a positive with it going online, is that we'll be able to track real time where things are at by census tract, so it can get down to that specific tract level, which don't ask me how to define that as some federal government formula that I cannot understand. But we will be able to see, X, Y, and Z area of Midland is low, so we need to target, grant dollars and organizations there. So that is a positive of their online model, is that in real time we'll be able to see how different areas of the state and our region are performing, which is really cool.
Carol?
When will the forms be available for people to fill out?
Good question. So the Census Bureau will do their first mailer in early March, like March 12. Once folks get that, then they can go online and take the census. They can call in too, and so if folks don't have internet access or they're uncomfortable using an iPad, there is a call-in option.
It's too
as
bad
well.
it's not available. Michigan's primary is March 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could have down the hall from where you vote, some computers for like people that don't have them, and they can fill it out right there.
That would be great if they could do that, but we'll at least make sure that we've got the visibility there. We'll make sure that there's
Public
posters.
places where people can go and do it, right?
Yeah, and those are our partners in the community, like the library, like the schools,
Okay.
the family centers throughout the county are all either going to be grantees or are non-grantee partnerships, and so they will make their computer labs available. But you're right, the timing, if they could have.
And 5 days earlier.
Yeah, but we'll make sure though that there is visibility, and so, you know, if we can have stuff there that people can see, like, hey, in 2 days you should be getting a mailer about your census, please take it, at least to have that available, yeah.
So in the past, we have gotten a mailer that was a form that we filled out and sent back. Will this mailer just be get on your computer and fill out? Is it just going to be like a notice?
For most households, that will be the case. Some households will receive the full questionnaire, and they're still doing some address canvassing to try to figure out how they're going to do that. But it goes back to their budget constraints too. They're not going to be able to mail out the full form to each household. Hopefully most will receive it that way, so if they want to fill it out on paper, they can. Our worry though is homeless and transient folks, snowbirds even, potentially will not get a form, and so we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to reach those folks. But every household will get a mailer, and then some will get the form to be able to send it back.
Kathy?
You sort of answered part of my question about, you know, the nuts and bolts of how this works. But I know back in the day, we got like a folder and you had to physically fill it out and mail it back in. And then the people who did not do, they sent workers out. Now, that was back before Postal Soft. That software from the post office, it literally tracks every household address in the country. So the federal government does have that. They know who didn't send it back. Will they send a human being out there to talk about?
They're still working through some of that, but they are utilizing any third-party assistance that they can. So USPS, they're using Google Earth too. So potentially, yes, if someone doesn't fill out by a certain date, they'll send someone to their house. It just kind of remains to be seen what their local worker presence is going to look like. I mean, they're definitely hiring folks, and they're trying to fill positions, but they're pretty behind. And you know, some folks are not going to feel comfortable with someone coming to their door, so we'll be dealing with that too, that distrust. But yeah, they are utilizing what they can to make sure that they're getting the addresses right, getting the follow-up right. So hopefully we can trust that.
Hi.
Sharon.
Sharon. Sorry.
Yeah, for us snowbirds, that first notification we get, is that vote, they don't always forward everything.
Right.
Is there a number we could, like I know March 12th, if I don't have anything by March 25th, will there be something, you know, on national news or perhaps MSNBC that tells us where we can call and get our information?
Yeah, and we're going to be doing that work locally too, to make sure that folks know, here's the site, here's the phone number, here's how you can do it if you're not in the state. You know, and we want to make sure that folks are aware too, even if you're gone during that period of time, if you're in Florida or Texas, whatever it is, if you've spent the majority, Texas, okay. If you spend the majority of your time here in Michigan, make sure that you're counted here for Michigan, even if you're in Texas or Florida on April 1st, which is the reference date for the census. If you spent the majority of your time here, you need to make sure that you're counted here, and part of what we're working on locally is to make sure that folks are aware of that too. Even if they're gone on that date, please count yourself for Michigan. So we'll make sure that that stuff is visible and available And there should be some of that going on at the federal and state level too. And the Governor's Complete Count Committee, I mean, she's really working hard to make sure that folks are educated and aware on this process and how to do it. So there will be a lot of visibility, I'm hoping.
So is your organization basically communication, that people know what's happening because you're not actually doing the census, is that correct?
So my role is not to get folks counted. My role is to work with the various nonprofits in this region. We have 300 alone just in Midland County, and then tons in Saginaw and Bay and Isabella. Forming an advisory committee with those nonprofits, making sure that our work is with an equity lens, and then providing the education, trainings, providing the dollars to those organizations. So as an example, something that we'll be doing is like our Meals on Wheels folks. They'll be getting iPads, hotspots from us, and they'll be sending those out with their staff or with their volunteers when they go into a person's home, providing the education, providing the help and assistance to be able to take the census, providing the piece of technology to actually do it. So it really is an on-the-ground effort trying to encompass all of our nonprofits that are serving the underserved populations, our local government, our schools, really all of those little pockets that the census usually misses.
Go ahead.
I was just curious, how did this grassroots move? You said Michigan is way ahead of other states in having this program, trying to work so hard. How did it start? Who started it?
So the Council of Michigan Foundations and the Michigan Nonprofit Association kind of came together on this last year, maybe a little over a year ago, because we knew that Congress had cut back the budget of the Census Bureau. And so right off the bat, I mean, we knew that there was going to be an undercount potentially, and we knew that we lost population, or they knew that we lost population. And then stuff started kind of boiling up with that citizenship question. So then, I mean, we've got a huge immigrant population here in Michigan and even here within our region. And so there were a lot of fears that, man, Michigan lost population in the Great Recession. You know, we lost a seat in the House of Representatives. We need to do something about this. And so they kind of got together initially to discuss how can we do this from a nonprofit perspective and kind of fill that void, make sure that we're reaching folks that aren't normally reached. And so from their location in Lansing, they started reaching out throughout the state to the local community foundations. And now, like I said, every single county has some sort of coverage. Some of us are multi-county hubs like ours. Some of them are, you know, like just Kalamazoo or just Grand Rapids. But they really just kind of started that work of reaching out to the community foundations. What capacity do you have to support something like this? Do you have donors that would, you know, give to a project like this? And pretty quickly, the whole state kind of got into it, which is really awesome. And, you know, other states are doing something similar. There's a nonprofit presence in quite a few states, but nobody is doing it to the level that we are here in Michigan. And I mean, so many different organizations got on board to support it. Kellogg Foundation, Consumers Energy, Dow, a lot of different organizations statewide and locally that kind of jumped on board too. Once they saw, okay, each person that's not counted, we lose $1,800 for each year. I mean, it makes sense to, let's take care of this up front. Let's treat this as a preventative measure rather than scramble on the back end when we've lost all this federal funding and folks are going to turn to philanthropy to fill the void. And we know our local nonprofits don't have the capacity to cover all of the stuff that the federal government normally does. And so I think folks kind of got on board pretty quickly and saw this as a great opportunity to get this right for Michigan.
Go ahead, Carol. Has it been revealed by the Federal Bureau of Census or whatever exactly what their staffing is going to be? I mean, is it known, or are they still waffling on how much, you know, they used to have leaders and workers, and I've known lots of people that did that in past years.
So there, I I mean, it's not ideal. They're still kind of scrambling. Our local office is the Chicago office, and they've been telling us that.
Very local.
Yeah. You know, and I've met with Bridget Granson, the county administrator, and she's been told that there's going to be a census person here in Midland, and that was a few months ago, and we still don't know. So some of it is just there was initially a leadership vacuum, and now they're kind of playing catch up and then dealing with some of that funding stuff. I mean, they're definitely still out there trying to recruit local workers, trying to hire folks. They're doing that. It just does not feel like a well-oiled machine. And potentially there's a chance that they'll get on track and it'll feel a little bit better. Right now it doesn't feel all the way like
Adequate.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, to me, I just see that as like, we just have to step up our game then, and we got to make sure we get it done. So,
Judy?
On the sort of logistics I'm trying to get my head around, if we have all these hot spots and places where people can go and fill out the forms, are they going to have some kind of identification code or something that has been sent to them previously that they have to enter into that? I'm thinking some of us work with mobile food pantry networks where you have all these people coming in. It's a wonderful audience of vulnerable folk. But how would we know whether they'd already filled out a form or another member of the family had filled out a form? I mean, is there a code or?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts. So the first part would be that when households get their mailer, it will have a unique identifier on there. And so if you've gotten that mailer, you go to the site, you put that in, and then you put in the other stuff. However, you know, some folks are not going to receive that. Some folks don't have a mailing address. And so what the Census Bureau has done, and this is really great, they have some mechanisms in place that they can kind of cross-check data. And so even if someone doesn't have that unique identifier, they can pull the data based on last name, on address, a couple other things that are put in. And so just because someone didn't receive a form or they don't have that unique number, that doesn't mean that they can't participate. So then the second part that I would say, you know, as far as the mobile food pantries and stuff like that, or has someone taken it, did someone in the household take it, our risk of an undercount is so much greater than our risk of a duplicate entry. And so if we're working with, you know, local organizations and someone's there and they don't know if they took it, they don't know if their husband took it, whatever it is, we're going to encourage them to take it again, because the Census Bureau has mechanisms in place to weed out any of those duplicates. And, you know, like I said, our bigger fear is that we're going to lose folks, that we're not going to get folks counted. We'll let them worry about getting those duplicates out of there. We just want to make sure that if someone is there and ready and willing to take the census, we're encouraging them to do so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Judy.
How about challenges to the census? I mean, are we going to run into that with the bad atmosphere that we have anyway, or is somebody going to challenge the census and try to make political gain out of it one way or the other?
I really hope not. I mean, it's definitely not a great environment. I mean, folks are nervous and scared to give their information. They're nervous and scared to do anything involving the federal government, especially the populations that I'm trying to reach with this endeavor. So the fear is definitely there, and that's a huge barrier for us. So I guess to that I'll say, you know, the efforts that we're trying to make to really make sure that we're reaching folks, that this is done in a place with a person that they trust. That stuff is going to be so huge for making sure that we get this right. Also creating materials, and we're working with a local marketing company to have some educational and outreach materials that's going to resonate with folks. You know, and each of our populations is different and unique, and so something that's going to resonate with an older adult, you know, might not resonate with a low-income mom with kids. And so we want to make sure that we're creating stuff that's going to reach people where they're at, make them feel comfortable with taking this, and then provide the funding to those organizations so that it can be done, in a trusted place with a trusted person. But you bring up a really great point. We're in a really rough situation with folks being scared, folks, especially our immigrant population being scared that their information is going to be shared with ICE. There's protections in place at the Census Bureau. We want to educate folks as to that stuff as well. But it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. I don't mean to paint a negative picture. I think we're going to nail this personally, and I'm super competitive, and I want to make sure that we get this done. But it's a tough environment, and people are nervous and scared, and so we're trying to meet them where they're at.
Thank you. I just had an observation on the census is we are not the problem. We live on a street at an address and we can read and we can figure out how to fill out the form and everything. But if we can take the opportunity to assist someone or explain to someone about taking the census and what the importance is, that's where I see most of us is wrong. Also, if you want to go on the US Census.gov page, and I think they're still taking applications. So if you really want to do that. But yes, it's going to be a lot fewer people and a lot more, well, couldn't you just do it online? So, and thanks everybody for being here.